You're watching RacinBoys TV. It's Chris Miller here, and at the Tulsa Shootout, we always feature the latest and greatest race cars, but why don't we take a look at the past race cars and how we got to be here. As you're going to look at right now, it's kind of a glorified race car from back in the day. As you can tell, safety has come a long way in the history of the Tulsa Shootout, looking from one roll cage on this machine and not even really any room for seat belts, and look at the exposed frame on the car too as well. And then as we move on to the next series of race cars, we start to look at more of the glorified kind of full roll cage. Not even enough, kind of, this is the latest, this was the latest back in about the 70s in terms of a 600cc engine, and as you can see, the motor all completely underneath, tail tank completely exposed as well, and the first look at modern day bumpers. We kind of have our own version of a Nerf bars on the side, and as you can see in the cockpit, seat belts kind of beginning to really be implemented in these race cars, as well as our first signs of gauges. So those were the big innovatives there. And as we move on to now more of the later in the 80s and 90s, as you can see, look at the shocks on the left rear and right rear. They've got dual shocks on each side, something that's been very different. Also, too, the fuel cell, a little bit different on the inside there and how it's built with the aluminum casing around. And also the seats too, not being made of material, but more of a crash and impact resistant material such as this carbon fiber. So those were the biggest innovatives, as well as the length of the car and housing the engine now on a side, being called the Sidewinder engines as we know of today. That's where the name got it from, is once the motors were moved from being in the center to the side. And finally, we moved to today's car, where a complete difference has been made in the safety innovations. As you can see, the Butler-built seat on the inside, as well as the innovative, more protective Nerf bars, as well as the roll cage being more of a cast iron steel. And also, if you look around the back too, the fuel cell and the bladder now completely they're sealed off. A new firewall was built in. So a lot of innovations to this new car, and they continue to change every year, but it's pretty cool to see how these cars range from back in the day to how they are this year.